women are 1.5 times less likely to apply to a company they've been rejected from or to a similar role to one that they haven't been successful for.
Rejection is not a failure, it's a step forward and a step towards success. Of course, it's not always easy to handle rejection, but rejection always teaches you something new.
Hello, and welcome back to Unlock Her Tech, the safe space podcast for women in the tech industry. I am one of your hosts, Jen Carswell. I'm a journalist and broadcaster specializing in business and technology. I'm here with Ellie, a resident tech expert. How are you, Ellie?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very excited for today's episode. We are going to talk about resilience and how to handle failure.
Yes, exactly. And to help us do this, we will be joined later by Isaac Goldfarb, who is founder of Matara Life Coaching, which he designed specifically to help women in the tech industry, and Lisa Ardley Price, who is co-founder and director of Channel Your Serenity, which I think everyone probably has been affected by this topic, which, as you mentioned, building resilience and confidence as a woman in tech, because, nobody really is likely to have a straight line trajectory without any kind of setbacks or any kind of shocks. Ellie, are there any particular obstacles that you've had to deal with that come straight into your mind?
Yeah, I had a lot of obstacles when I wanted to get into tech. When I got my first job, I was struggling with my imposter syndrome, especially early on my career, because I was comparing myself with my colleagues. I was doubting my qualifications. The other challenge I was facing was when I wanted to get into tech without any computer science degree. I was doubting my skills, and I needed to prove my skills through the projects and being persistent, which can mean also resilience. The other thing for me was adapting to the different work culture, which also pushed me out of my comfort zone. And also being a software engineer, you always need to learn, and learning to handle job rejections as a part of the process also made me more resilient, and I didn't take it as a failure, which I'm going to explain later on.
And we've mentioned before, and I know that you are feeling this, Ellie, that is a difficult time in the tech industry with a lot of companies downsizing. Of course, for tips on CVs and interviews, you can listen to episode 2, which was specifically about that topic. But in this episode, we're doing a deep dive into dealing with rejection, building something positive out of what might feel inherently negative. I mean, a lot of people listening might be applying for jobs, thinking of applying for jobs, and that carries, a not insignificant chance of rejection. I mean, where in this process, I guess, does rejection fit in? Is it something that you think about in the initial job search, or does that come later for you?
Yeah, so when I was applying for jobs, or when I'm applying for jobs, I think it's gonna be both. So from the start, I apply for jobs. I know that I am not a great fit for all of the roles I'm applying to. So I see rejection as a part of the journey, basically. And so in the beginning, obviously, it doesn't feel like encouraging. It does feel like discouraging. But over time, I reframe it as a feedback, a way to basically and identify the knowledge gaps and improve yourself with all of those rejections. So basically, what what I learned from my rejection is not a failure; it's a step forward and a step towards success. Of course, it's not always easy to handle rejection, but rejection always teaches you something new. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you could be a panelist on this episode. Um, in the course of doing some research, I saw something that caught my eye, which is a statistic that women are 1.5 times less likely to apply to a company they've been rejected from, or to a similar role to one that they haven't been successful for, than men are. So, I mean, I think maybe that is just a little bit of an insight into, the difficulty that there is around resilience, or maybe a lack of resilience.
Um, I believe that sometimes the barrier is not a skills, it's basically confidence, and that's what we have to work on, and that's what we need basically maybe to tell women in tech, to make them aware of that, and to help them to they basically increase their confidence, because I know lots of amazing women that they are software engineers or they are working in tech, but they don't believe in themselves. So the barrier that I see isn't a skill, it's a confidence. So I think we need more conversation to encourage women to reapply and try again. And I believe persistence matters.
Well, what a brilliant segue into our conversation that we have with our two guests. Well, let's jump right in and talk more about how we can turn professional lemons into lemonade with our guests, Lisa Ardley Price and Isaac Goldfarb. Welcome so much. Isaac, I want to start with you, just to ask how you became involved with working with women and building resilience.
Well, working for the IT for 25 plus years and being engineer, manager, and director, I've seen it firsthand. The situation we have with women in tech. I had the pleasure to work with two fantastic women engineers that reported to me, and the rest of the team were 6 or 7 men. And they were absolutely amazing. And I was asking myself, where are those women? Why can't we have more of them? So when I decided to shift my career to become a life coach, I thought that women in tech is where I want to really make a difference. And I'm feeling like I'm in a mission. I'm in a mission to change the world, if I can, a little bit, but to help those women to thrive, to succeed, because I know they can.
It's a very, very commendable mission. So, Lisa, as well as being the director of Channel Your Serenity, you're also a lawyer and seem to have a lot of other activities that you're involved in. So, how did you become involved in coaching and mentoring?
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. I have been working in the legal profession and financial services, more particularly, for kind of over 15 years now. So that's where I started my career, having studied law and French at university, and then went on to complete my training as a solicitor, worked in international law firms, worked really, really long hours where I was a bit of a slave to the day job, in all honesty. It was very all-consuming, and that took me kind of sacrificing a lot of my personal life and a lot of my own personal well-being as well, kind of reaching the brink of burnout. Some big things happened in my life that really made me kind of pause and reflect and say, is this what I truly want? And that made me kind of make a few changes in terms of my career path, and at the same time kind of diversifying my career, and not only continuing to pursue my legal career, but also to look at other things that lit me up, things that I was passionate about. And one of those was helping to support others. So taking everything that I'd learned in terms of my wellbeing practices, the somatic work, both kind of from exercise, fitness, but also the more holistic practices like yoga, mindfulness, meditation, bringing all of that together with the coaching as well, which was something that I went on to pursue and completed in 2022 to become a certified life coach. To then be able to kind of bring that into that wellness offering to provide a fully kind of holistic service to the clients that I work with, and really practicing what I preach. So using the things that have worked for me to help other people, so that people don't have to reach that point of burnout before they realize they need to make a change, but they can start making those tweaks and changes within their lives to ultimately kind of cultivate that resilience that is going to serve them long term, so that they can set kind of sustainable career goals and really help them to reach their objectives and their ambitions.
Lisa, how do you define resilience?
So I define resilience not only as the ability to cope with a challenge that's in front of you, but also to take that experience and learn from it. So use it to help you to get stronger. And then when future challenges face you, which undoubtedly they will, you're able to navigate those with more kind of compassion, clarity, and certainty about the outcomes and your ability to be able to get through them. So ultimately creating more confidence in your ability to confront those challenges face on.
Thank you.
Isaac, it seems normal to me, and I'm sure to a lot of our listeners, that you might feel sad or depressed or disheartened after being rejected. Is that a normal feeling?
Yes, I guess, every feeling is normal feeling. Okay, we need to think about that. It really depends on the level of confidence and the level of resilience, if we want to call it this way, that you have in order to handle rejections or bad news or scenarios that are not comfortable, right? So absolutely, if you're feeling down or not sure on all of that, it's okay. Be kind to yourself. It's okay to feel this way. And there are some techniques and ways to discuss with yourself, with your internal resources, how to improve those feelings and get better.
Isaac, there seems to be a lot of emphasis on focusing on the things that you can control yourself. Is that a good place to start?
A good self-awareness exercise would be to ask yourself, when things around you happen, what is it in my control? And once you're asking yourself that question and you're really realizing that a specific thing is within your control, then a change can happen.
And Lisa, how important is a good support network in those feelings and in those moments?
I think it's absolutely fundamental. I think community is everything. You are a product of the people that you surround yourself with. And so being really mindful of that, I think, Isaac said how important it is to have that self-awareness, to have a regular practice of self-reflection, to know yourself. And then in knowing yourself, I think you can really be more discerning about the people that you do bring into your life and that you surround yourself with, those people that are more truly aligned with your values and are going to help you on your journey towards your goals, that are going to, love and support you unconditionally. And yeah, sometimes they might give you a bit of tough love and, encouragement and some hard truths, but that's what you want, right? You need people that are going to be there to support you on that journey.
So, like most things, do good habits start in childhood? What are they, Isaac?
Well, good habits and bad habits, I guess, both can come to us when we are babies, children, and all of that. But I want to emphasize here something, that I think our resilience when we are babies and children are much stronger than our adult life. And I want to give you an example of a baby that just crawling and is about to walk, right? And it's like he's walking around, it's like not sure, and then grabbing this hand on this table next to her, and then wobbling. And then what happens when they do the first step? They fall down. Now, if you think about it in resilience ways, oh my God, I fall down. What happened? I hurt myself. Blah, blah, blah. They would never try again. So we have more resilience when we are younger. And I'm reflecting, I'm asking myself while I'm talking, what is actually happening when we are slowly losing our resilience? I don't know. It's a question that I'm still trying to figure out. with myself.
Okay, good points. Lisa, anything to add?
Yeah, I love that example of a baby, because I look at my kids all the time, and they're a little bit older now, but the way they learn things and the determination to just try and try and try again. You know, I've seen my daughter teach herself gymnastics, and currently she's in this phase of back bending, and it's just, I mean, she does things that I'm still desperately trying to do on a yoga mat, but she's got that natural flexibility that kids do have. So I have to be compassionate with myself about that as well, and use her as inspiration for me to keep trying too. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. You know, we know we have neuroplasticity in our brains. There is the ability to change them, to learn new habits, and that's what a growth mindset is all about. But to have that self-compassion with yourself through the process. Why do we lose that resilience? I don't think it's that we necessarily lose the resilience. I think it's that other things get in the way of it. Obstacles like that fear of failure, which comes in, which is often underpinned by fear of judgment, of not meeting other people's expectations. And so again, you have to keep coming back to yourself, like, who are you doing this stuff for? And is it really for other people, or is it for yourself? And then realign things. And that's what, you know, I do a lot of work with clients around, is helping them to realign their lives, to come back to what's truly important to them.
Right. Okay. Let's focus now on what we can do to be more resilient when we're faced with some difficult moments and challenges, which I think is probably what most of our audience is interested in. Before we do that, I just wonder if maybe you wouldn't mind sharing when you really understood the importance of building resilience, and after what felt like a bad experience or maybe a failure. Isaac, do you mind kicking us off?
Well, the way I look at things, I know there is a strong link between a failure and resilience. I understand that, but I look at them as two different things. Yes, we all had failures in our life, right? We didn't get the job we wanted. We didn't get the promotion we wanted. We didn't, we got, our heart got broken. You know what I mean? It's like we had failures in our life that I look at it as an opportunity. At the age I am at the moment, I look at it as all of those experiences were an opportunities for me to grow and to improve myself. And I guess that's where the link of resilience is coming, because the moment you're starting to look at failures and mistake as a feedback to your life instead of failure and mistake, that's where you're helping your resilience to grow. So yeah, I guess that's where I see the link.
Lisa, just before I come to you, is that, Isaac, do you think that that's like something that you have learned sort of later in your life because of experiences? Is that always sort of how you were even when you faced obstacles and challenges when you were younger?
First thing that comes to my mind when you're asking that is, I remember in my early age in career, when I was just in the beginning of the career, I had a very difficult to go to my manager and ask for pay rise. Like I felt like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I was my 20, 23, 24, maybe my first job kind of thing. And I'm like, I deserve more money. But I couldn't find the right approach to do it, the right words. And all I was thinking is, is he going to say no? And I will feel bad. And then I went and I was brave and asked for it and got it. And it's like, and you think about that sometimes the failures are in our hands more than actually they are happening. So yes, there were failures, of course, and from every failure we should learn. But always ask yourself whether the failure is really happening or is it in your head.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Very good point. Lisa, is there anything that sort of comes to your mind as Isaac is speaking?
Yeah, I think there's been various moments in my life where my resilience has really been tested, and a lot of it comes back to kind of what's within your control, what's outside of your control. Back when I was at university, I think my resilience was tested for the first time when, I had a couple of difficult years, being a bit of a duck out of water, struggling a little bit to fit in, masking quite a bit who I was in a strange environment. Definitely kind of had an impact on me and my academics, and I had a couple of difficult years, which then really made me kind of step back and question whether I was actually on the right path for me. But actually, in going through that process, it was validating because it really committed me to my goal. I was very determined to become a lawyer, and in that process, adopting a bit of a growth mindset around it, it's like, okay, let's take a moment to pause, reset, recalibrate. Things haven't been going quite the direction I wanted them to go. How do I take what's within my control and change this? So, I knew that I was probably not going to come out overall with the overall grade that I wanted for my degree. How was that going to impact me? Okay, well, it might impact my ability to go out and get the type of job I wanted. What could I do? Well, I could improve my grades for the last year. And then I could go out and explain to employers why things didn't go quite to plan in the first couple of years and how I changed that. And actually, what does that show about me? It shows that I've got the ability to learn. I've got the ability to commit to a goal and really shift the needle, adapt, and have that resilience, which actually is so much more valuable to an employer than just having the academics. So actually, part of the building resilience, part of the bouncing back from failure is also reframing it into a positive.
I love what you just said about reframing, because a lot of the limiting beliefs we have when we say, I can't do it, I won't do it, I never be able to do it, and all of that. And a simple reframing practice can shift your mindset quite fast, quite quickly, and improve and grow. You will grow once you are realizing you can do that.
Yeah, and once you do that once, you realize that you can do it time and time again.
Yeah, exactly. So the next question I have, Lisa, is in a situation when you need help, how can you ask for it?
Oh, this is something that I've grappled with over the years, because I think you talked about programming as a child, and I think I was certainly programmed not to ask for help. Actually, don't talk about your problems, don't talk about your challenges, talk about your successes, but actually don't talk about your successes too much because you don't want to brag. So it's like getting the balance right. So just don't talk about anything. Keep it to yourself. And so I was always very much of the mindset that I needed to prove myself. I needed to prove that I could get out there and I could do things for myself and I could be independent, particularly as a woman, that I didn't need anyone else, that I could be a strong, independent female. And that was, I suppose, what was role modeled to me growing up as well by society, by pop culture, by the Spice Girls going, girl power, like, let's get out there. And I definitely believe in all that. But I also believe that it's not about you being, a strong, independent person without having a support network around you. Yes, you can be independent, but actually there's great strength in knowing when to ask for help. And it's important to realize as well that, you're human and you can't do all the things. You're not meant to do all the things. So the strength is identifying, who has the skills, the talents, the knowledge that you need and how to bring them in. And actually that's leadership as well, right? Leadership is creating a strong team around you, and self-leadership is doing the same, bringing in that strong team of people around you. Going back to the point that I made at the beginning about community, is surrounding yourself with those people that are going to help you to succeed.
I want to take you back to that baby that started to walk. And when the babies are doing the first steps, then what do they do usually? They are relying on the parents to hold their hands and to help them to go, to walk. And again, it's like, this is like built in us, the ask for help. And over the years, we're just losing it because of, I guess, what you said, Lisa, society expectations, what is expected for you, all of that. But let's just remind ourselves, let's go to basics. It's okay to ask for help.
And in terms of asking for help, are there any particular resources, mentors, peers, things like that are either particularly helpful or particularly helped you individually. Isaac, do you want to go first?
So I am a great believer of therapy. And I think that all of us needs to go through at least once in their lifetime a therapy process, because therapy allows us to open the box of the past. And I am a great believer that we have 3 boxes in ourselves. We have the past box, we have the present box, and we have the future box. And with the therapy, I believe that we are opening the box of the past, which allow us to understand how we got to where we are today. And it could be a very, very painful process. However, it's important, it's needed. And at any stage, it's needed. But then we need to think about other resources of help, such what we, Lisa and I, are offering, which is life coaching. And in the life coaching world, we are looking at the present, what's happening today. And if you think about it, present is equal gift. What you have today is your gift. And what's happening today and how we can take what we have today in order to have a better future or a successful future, or a future we want. So that's what life coaching is. I don't know, Lisa, if you agree with me on that approach of what life coaching is, but any type of help, as long as you understand you can ask and allowing yourself to ask for it and get it, would be brilliant for you, whether it's from your closest circles, whether it's from your peers. There are some charities that helping in different, areas. Just go and look for it and ask for it. And again, I will say, don't be shy to ask for help.
Yeah, I echo all of that. On the coaching piece, yes, it's present, but it's also very forward looking, kind of looking towards where you want to get to and then creating the blueprint to get there, and keeping you accountable on that journey. Very self-reflective, but also thinking about who you need to be bringing into that kind of personal boardroom to help you to get to where you want to be. And just like any kind of boardroom, people are going to come and go from that space, depending on what skills, knowledge, experience you need. So being reflective of that, and bringing new people in, and also at times letting people go. And that's not, any negative towards them. It's just what you need at the time and tuning into the seasonality of your life. And as your goals shift and change over time, so will the people that you surround yourself with.
A quick follow-up, which is when you're working with people, maybe Lisa, to you first, in the present, looking at the future, do they always know what they want? Does what they want shift as you work with them? So I suppose what I'm asking is is what we think we want what we actually want, and how do you differentiate between the two?
Absolutely. It's a really, really good question, and something that, most people come to coaching with, right? They don't know what they want, or they don't know whether what they want is truly what they want, or whether it's what someone else expects of them. And a lot of the time, this is the transition that we're helping people with, is to go from doing one thing, which they're doing to meet other people's expectations, or because they were programmed to want, because they thought it was expected of them, and then what actually truly lights them up. And that's what, I get a huge amount of fulfillment from, is helping people to realign, and the shift that you see in them when they go from feeling really stuck and frustrated and possibly even burnt out, depressed, anxious, because they're not doing things that are truly aligned with them, with their values, with their purpose and their passion. And then when you help them to get onto that path, when you give them that safe space to explore what they're truly meant for, and they start to change their life in small ways. It doesn't have to be a radical overnight transformation, but it's just little things day by day that they start to bring in that move them. It's like moving a ship, right? Just like little bit by little bit in that direction can suddenly change the whole navigation of their lives. And you see how much more they start to become lit up, excited, passionate. You can hear it from the way people talk about things. They talk about what they're doing at the moment, and they seem like very downbeat. And then you hear them talk about this thing that they're passionate about, this thing that lights them up, and you literally see them light up in the process. So it's just helping them get from where they are to where they want to be.
I experienced some mentoring from Lisa, so she's doing great, and she's very great mentor. Thank you, Lisa. I have one question for you, Lisa. What are some of your key tips to anyone going through a tough time? a difficult time?
I think it starts with self-compassion. Like, it's so easy to beat yourself up over difficult things that are happening, to fall into the trappings of self-blame and, you know, attacking yourself. Like, we talk to ourselves in ways that we would never talk to anybody else. I often say to people, you know, if a friend of yours was going through what you're going through right now, what would your advice to them be? And it will be very different to what they're saying to themselves and what their inner dialogue is. So I always say to people, you know, start with self-compassion, be kind to yourself through the process, acknowledge that you are a human and you are going to experience all of the emotions, and not in a linear way, right? So just meet yourself where you are. And then, you know, in that process, going back to what we discussed previously around identifying, you know, what you need in the moment, you know, who do you need support from? Going out and asking for that help. Um, and in asking for that help, you know, sometimes that can conflict with, you know, some of the things, the expectations that you have for yourself. Oh, I don't need help. I can do this alone. Okay, confront that. And also think about it, the opportunity that it gives for the other person. Because I know that I, as a friend, as a family member, am always, you know, privileged and honored to be able to assist someone I love. When I get that opportunity, it gives me so much, as well as I don't want to see them go through anything negative, but if I can help them, you know, that makes me feel great. And so think about the opportunity you're giving that other person to help you and to show their love for you. Um, and think about the resources that you need. So, you know, are there things that you need to adjust from a practical perspective? Do you need to carve out some space for yourself? Do you need to dial down some of the things you're working on right now? If something really big has come into your life that's super challenging, whether that's a bereavement, a separation, divorce, whatever that happens to be, even that might mean that now is not the time to go after the big career goals. Maybe you need to dial that down. Not take your foot off the accelerator completely, but just, you know, maybe just take it off a little bit, and not set such ambitious goals for yourself in that moment, and then just ride that out, move through that period, and then know that you have all the time to pick it back up when you feel more resourced to.
There was a famous quote that I wish I could have remembered who said that, and I apologize for that person. But she said, speak to yourself like you speak to your loved ones. And that's connected to what Lisa just said. And it's such a strong sentence that we forget to speak ourselves in a love manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very good reminder that, you know, kindness also can extend within and not just without. Are there like specific moments where either failing or not getting what you wanted actually led to something that was even better, or maybe taught you something that you wouldn't have learned otherwise? So in a way, sort of ended up being a positive. Isaac?
Absolutely. Every scenario that didn't go to the direction I wanted forced me to stretch, to be creative, which most of the time had a better outcome. I have to say, whether it was a job that I didn't get that I really, really wanted, and I found a better job. Or if I didn't get the loan from the bank that I was, needed so much, there was a better solution for me. So I know that, not getting what you want at that exact moment can be deflating a bit, can be, demotivating you and but I genuinely believe that everything happened for a reason. And I'm not just saying it as a cliche. It's like the moment we are practicing that and bringing it to our life and understanding, okay, we didn't get what we wanted. There is something better for us, and there is a reason why we didn't get it in this moment. That's how I live my life, and it makes my life too much easier when things don't go in my direction in the right way.
I agree with that. But I think you have to take some agency with it, right? So yes, everything happens for a reason, but you can't just sit and wait for something to change. You have
Absolutely.
to be in control of that. You have to take the control back. So yes, when the world is spinning around you and you feel like you're in the eye of the storm, you have to come back to that point that Isaac made earlier around kind of what can I control, what can't I control, what is within my sphere of influence, all the work of Stephen Covey, and then going, right, okay, what do I change here? How do I need to improve myself? What do I need to change about my situation? And how do I go about doing that? And that's where having a coach, having a mentor, having a really good friend can help you through that process.
Yeah, exactly. I think the next question I have is, what are the examples that you might be building resilience, even if it doesn't feel like that at the time, Lisa or Isaac?
It can be hard to know sometimes. It's really difficult to measure, especially when you're in it. But I think having a regular practice of self-reflection and self-awareness and cultivating that self-awareness will help you to be able to identify what's changing. It's a bit like, having a house plant in your house, and it's wilting. You just make a few tweaks and changes. You move it to a different environment. You start to nourish it a bit better, and you don't see that it's getting better necessarily. But then suddenly one day you turn around and you see that it's thriving. So it has been changing. You just haven't noticed it. And it's the same with yourself. But when you have that regular practice of self-reflection, you can start to notice day by day what is improving. You can look back and you can identify kind of patterns and trends. And so journaling is a really good practice. And it doesn't have to be writing reams and reams and reams, but it could just be a few bullets on a daily basis. Like, how do I feel right now? What am I noticing, both kind of physically and mentally? I think it's really important to notice the physical changes. Like, our body really does keep the score. So that's why I work a lot with somatics. It's why we do a lot of that work within Channel Your Serenity alongside the coaching work. I think it's very, very important to marry kind of mind and body together and not lose that connection. And so the body holds a lot of clues for us as to kind of where we are on that resilience journey. And are we still in this fight and flight mode, or have we started to shift to rest and digest? So what is the impact that we're having on our central nervous system? So just noticing the quality of your breath. How are you breathing? Are you breathing in the top part of your lungs, or are you using all of your lungs? Are you deepening your breath? Is it going all the way down to your belly? Like, are your shoulders up towards your ears, or are they starting to drop down? Are you feeling more relaxed in your body? Do you still have that horrible knot in your stomach, or is that starting to release? So noticing those physical changes as well as the mental ones.
I love that, Lisa. I love what you said about this noticing yourself and what's happening to yourself. If I may share a bit of my history, I suffered from IBS for 30 years, and it was horrid IBS. It got to a point where I was 9 times a day in the toilet, waking up in the night with cramps. It was like unbearable. And I tried doctors, I tried nutritions, I tried even hypnotherapy. I've gone into that route. Nothing helped. And then I landed almost by mistake on a doctor online that had this theory, this crazy theory that nobody kind of believes in that theory. And I'm looking at it and I ask myself this question: what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? I tried this system. In 3 days within this system, like a new Isaac, a new world. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my new God kind of thing. So what do I have to lose is a very, very good question to ask yourself when you kind of want to try something and you're not sure, but you know that your current situation needs to change. What do you have to lose? Try it out. Go for it.
You've both hinted at some things to do and things that you do. Isaac, is there one thing daily or weekly that really helps you to stay confident, stay positive?
One of the barriers of confidence is the comparison trap. So when you compare yourself to others, whether it's your friends, your neighbors, your family, whatever, right? And if you catch yourself doing it, start talking to yourself, because there is no point to compare yourself to anyone else. Your journey is unique journey. And that's usually what I'm doing as a habit. Like when I'm thinking, oh, other coaches doing that, stop, Isaac. There is no other coaches. It's you and what you're doing and what's your way. So my recommendation, think about the comparison trap. Try to compare yourself to yourself
only.
A quote I often come back to is comparison is the thief of joy. And to your point, Isaac, yeah, if you're looking at someone else and it's making you feel bad about yourself, if it's dialing up the voice of that inner critic, you've got to stop it. You've got to stop yourself in your tracks and just stay in your lane, because, you know, we're all on a journey. And we'll all get there in the end. Wherever it is we're going, we'll reach that point. You've just got to stay true to yourself. But sometimes, you know, comparison is useful. I think if you're finding inspiration in the person you're comparing yourself to, so if you're using that as a learning, you know, as a way to go, okay, what's that person doing? How can I emulate that myself? And, you know, use them as a mentor, use them as a sounding board. Say, I can see that you're doing something really positive here. How can I start to cultivate that for myself? Great, cool, go for it. Like, compare away. But the minute it's making you feel bad about yourself, let it go.
I wouldn't call it comparing. I would have called it inspiring. So if someone is inspiring you, go for it. Follow their leads, follow their path, follow the route. But the moment you're starting with, hey, but this person that inspiring me is doing X and I'm doing X divide 2, that's where it's not inspiring anymore.
Yeah.
It's taking you down.
Exactly. I think that's what Lisa was mentioning as a red flag. So if someone inspires you, but also you're comparing yourself, that's a red flag for you. So Lisa, are there any affirmations you return to when your imposter syndrome kicks in? Do you have any imposter syndrome?
Oh, everyone has imposter syndrome. I did some training on this recently, and look, you know, everybody in the room put their hands up and said at some point I felt like an imposter. Again, coming back to the practice of reframing, I like to reframe being an imposter into knowing that you're in your zone of growth. That you've got to be in that space, right, in order to learn. Everyone's got to be a beginner. Even the experts have been a beginner at some point. So when you are learning something new, you're going to feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome. But again, not letting it hold you back. So exercising that self-compassion, leaning into it. And what are some of the things that I say to myself in those situations, and I encourage kind of others to tell themselves, is embrace your uniqueness. Like, there is no one else like you. You know, you were put here for a reason. You have a unique set of skills, experiences, unique character and personality. No one else has the same as you do. So everybody can bring something unique into a room. Everyone has a view, a perspective, an opinion that counts, that matters. So even in a room of experts, you know, you have a voice, you have an experience, so share that. So lean into that, lean into your uniqueness and what makes you you.
Is there anything to add?
The imposter syndrome is it's one of those things which we are doing and not necessarily we are aware we are doing, and sometimes the imposter syndrome is within ourselves, right? But I kind of agree with everything that Lisa was saying, and again we will go back to the point where reflect, ask yourself questions, you know, be kind to yourself, speak to yourself with love. All of those will help you to value yourself in the value you should value yourself, by not looking at someone else as putting them on the pedestal for whatever reason.
Isaac made a point earlier about, you know, failure being in your own head. And I think this is similar. You know, you said if you see yourself as an imposter, I think different situation where others are making you feel like an imposter, and then you have to question that, and you have to, you know, ask about the environment that you're in and the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Can you influence those opinions? Are they valid opinions? Or you actually in a toxic environment that's bringing you down? And in which case, you know, you have to remove yourself from that and move to a space where you feel you belong and you can actually thrive. Again, a bit like moving that house plant around the house so that it gets more light and it gets more of what it needs. So reflecting on, you know, where is this imposter syndrome coming from? Is it coming from within me or is it coming from outside?
And if anyone wants more information, the first episode that we did was actually all about imposter syndrome. So I would encourage our listeners to seek that out if they haven't listened to it already. So we've spoken quite a lot about sort of mindset shifts and sort of self-reflection and being able to take a step back. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we maybe haven't mentioned that either of you have found useful, or that you think would be good to also sort of bring up for our listeners and for the sort of wider community. Isaac, is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I will echo one of the things Lisa said about breathing. I think, as funny as it sounds, we forget to breathe a lot of the time. And when I'm saying breathe, I'm like, take a deep breath. So when you identify yourself uncomfortable for whatever reason it could be, you made a mistake, someone talked to you in not a nice way, your head is starting to spinning around for whatever reason. When you identify those things, just take a moment to yourself, disconnect from the world, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Do that a few times, like a real deep breath. And then you're resetting yourself. And if you try this practice, you will see how it won't solve necessarily the problem, but what it will solve is your presence where you are at that moment, at that time, with that situation.
Lisa, I'm sure that you can expand on that. And I don't know, do you know if you can tell us a little bit more about sort of breathing, and maybe, I think it has like an impact on the vagus nerve, like all of those sort of like the central nervous system. So it is a real like physiological thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Breath work, as Isaac's alluded to, it's one of the most powerful tools we have, and it's free to be able to regulate our central nervous system. So we've all been there, right? We've all had an email come in that's really triggered us, and we suddenly want to sit there and fire off a really angry response, and it's not necessarily the right response in the moment. Maybe we haven't read the email the right way, we haven't read it with the right tone of voice in our heads, we've read things into it that aren't actually there because of the state of mind that we're in. So how do we challenge ourselves around that? Well, we have to take a step back, we have to pause, to do the big deep breath and maybe some box breathing or something, or get outside, go for a walk, just do something to help shift your central nervous system. Because when we're in that fight and flight mode, we want to do a few different things. We want to flight, we want to fight, flight, freeze. And none of those things are necessarily going to help you in that moment, because those are things that our bodies were programmed to do in reaction to a saber-toothed tiger, not in reaction to an email. So doing something to regulate yourself when you notice that you're in that state, and spoke about all the physical symptoms of fight and flight earlier, but when your body tenses up and you feel hot and anxious and stressed, bring yourself back down. Do something mindful, really kind of focus on the environment you're in. So whether that's your breath work, whether that's kind of using your senses and going through a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise of just noticing what's around you, using the different senses that are available to you. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you touch? Ground yourself, and then come back to it. But I think this is also the key to shifting from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. So I love the work of Carol Dweck, anything to do with mindset and building resilience. I think if you want to learn more of that, I would encourage you to go out and read her book, Mindset, and read the second edition, because it's got all the latest updates in it. Or kind of watch her TED Talk, because she was the person that coined the phrase. Well, the phrase is growth mindset and fixed mindset. And getting out of this mindset of I was only born to do one thing, like I can't learn something new, I can't be a failure at something, I don't want to get feedback because it might be negative, I'm worried about being judged. And actually moving into this space of growth, of learning, of loving learning, of being curious, of not being afraid to get out there and try new things, because it's a journey. Enjoy the journey to get there. It's not all that. Goals are important, and as a coach, I love a goal. It's good to have something to work towards, but also don't be overly fixated on them. Know that they can change and evolve over time, and also importantly, enjoy the journey to get there. Enjoy each day as it comes along. Have this practice of gratitude, I think, as well, is really important. A daily practice of gratitude, and not letting any day pass you by.
Yeah, that's a very good advice, Lisa. But do you think, is there one thing leaders can do to support others through failure? more effectively.
Yeah. So I think listening as a leader is absolutely fundamental. So holding space for people, hearing them. So not just listening, but actually hearing them fully, and following up on that. So giving them what they need, not what you think they need. That's where the listening comes in. So actually understanding what they're saying to you, exercising that emotional intelligence, your empathy, to walk in their shoes, to live that experience with them, knowing that no two people will ever need the same things and won't need the same solutions. So I think this is where coaching is so helpful, because it's not about me giving you the answer to your problem, because I don't have the same skills, knowledge, experience as you. What works for me won't necessarily work for you. So instead, helping you to navigate through questions, through holding that space for your own self-reflection, so that you can come to the answers yourself. And that's where listening as a leader comes in. Listening, holding that space, asking incisive questions, so that ultimately you can help that person to reach the right solution for them, which ultimately is going to be a more sustainable solution as well.
I thought over the years when I was manager, I thought I'm the best manager ever. And I was kind of a manager that someone came to me with a problem. Oh yeah, I know the solution. And I solved the solution for them. And I thought, I lived with this life many, many years of, oh, I'm the best manager ever. And then I read this book about self-directive and directive management. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I'm not that great manager. And I changed completely the style of management from being directive to something in between, because you need to find the balance. You can't be completely self-directive and completely directive. And the results I got I remember a specific scenario where the team lead, a woman, came to me and she got used to me giving her all the solutions, right? And I started to ask a question, kind of an open question. And you see her like, what's happening to you, Isaac? What happened? And she came up with a solution that I would have never come up with. And I was like, yeah, okay, now I can see myself a much better manager. And kudos to her, of course.
And Isaac, can you just explain for people who don't know what those terms mean?
So directive means basically when someone is coming to you and you kind of almost offering them the solution or solve the problem for them. So for example, someone tells you, I don't know, I'm not getting response from this because it's higher up. So because I'm higher up, they probably think that they will answer me because I'm higher up in the leadership, right? So I'm like, okay, then I will write him an email or her or whatever, and I'll get the answer for you. While that would not be the right solution for the long term, because that person that has a question needs to find a way to develop a system where they get the answer they want from the higher up. Self-directive would be something, if we take the same scenario, would be something of, okay, what have you done? What else can you do? And kind of ask those open questions in order them to get to the point where, okay, maybe I'll try this solution and try solution, as long as they are doing it themselves. And that is what self-directive as a terminology. And as I said, I believe there should be some sort of a solution in between kind of thing. Sometimes there is a way where when you are higher up, you have the solution, you have the power to make a change. Most of the time, the answer is within the person that asked the question or needed that help.
I think something that you touched on there, Isaac, is sponsorship. And actually that's something we haven't really spoken about today. Is we've spoken about therapy, we've spoken about coaching and mentoring, but sponsorship, that's the person that's going to speak up for you in a room that you're not in. You might not even know that they're sponsoring you, but that's the person that's opening doors that wouldn't otherwise be available to you, is singing your praises, is advocating for you. And sometimes you don't know to ask for that. You don't know that that's part of the solution because you don't know what they can offer for you. So there's that as well, is looking out for those sponsors as well and making sure that they kind of form part of your team. as much as possible.
And that is very likely to be our next episode. So that's very, very.
I'll segue into that for you.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to ask a sort of touch on something like on a kind of failure ritual. If there's anything that either of you do that helps you to process something that hasn't gone your way and to help you move on. I mean, I personally find like going for a walk after something bad happens for me is really useful. It gets me out of like physically out of where I am. It helps me to change my headspace, and then physiologically I think just having like, you know, a couple of endorphins is never a bad thing. But I'm just wondering if either of you have anything that you as a sort of like go to.
I definitely agree with the physical practice. It's something that, you know, I always come back to move it through my body somehow, whether that is to get out for a run or do my yoga practice, or so, you know, if that's not available to me at the time, just some breath work, but physically moving it through you. And then once you've, you know, done that and you've moved through that and you've removed the physical distraction and you kind of shifted your, you know, central nervous system from your sympathetic into your parasympathetic, into that rest and digest. It's from that space that you can start to get more clarity, more understanding, more focus around the thing that you're dealing with. And actually, you can step back. That's the important thing with failure, that you're able to step back and look at the bigger picture. And then once you're able to do that, you can go, oh, actually, does this really matter so much? Or actually, when I look at the whole picture, there's all this good stuff happening over here, and this is just one small thing. But when you're in it, it just feels like it's the biggest thing. And then it starts to spiral, and you start to wind yourself up more and more and more about it, and you beat yourself up, and the inner critic comes in, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you've got to do that thing to stop yourself in your tracks, not go down that spiral, and actually move out of the way so that you can see that bigger picture. It's, you know, it's easier said than done, but it's a practice. And the more you do it, the more you're able to notice those signs, those physical signs, those triggers. You kind of catch yourself in your tracks and go, aha, now I need to do something. I need to move through this. And sometimes that can be talking it through with someone as well, right? So do the physical practice, but then talk it through with someone. You know, pick up the phone to a friend, a trusted advisor, a coach, you know, whoever that happens to be, to work it through. Do some journaling as well, but just find some ways to get it out of you. Don't keep it in your head.
The internal voice, the internal critique voice, Lisa, you are mentioning, I'm calling it the judge voice, or I'm calling it in my mind, it's Judge Isaac. And when things like that happening, just this week I made a mistake, foolish mistake, shouldn't happen, and I was like, ooh, kind of felt like, oh my God, what a drama happened. And then I did a breathing. That is a ritual. I said to myself, okay, it happened. You can't change it now. You can't undo it. It happened. Let's do the breathing. Then we start speaking with yourself and lower the volume of your judge. Because the moment you're allowing the volume of the judge to get higher and higher, that's where you don't think clearly. So my practice here, back to your question, Jen, is really back to the breathing and have a chat with your judge. Don't completely ignore it or shut it down. Just have a chat with it, and maybe things will be clearer and better.
I think the next question I have is, how do you lead or mentor someone through failure? What advice do you give them, Lisa or Isaac?
I guess sharing with them everything we just discussed, right? And coming back to some of what we were talking about in terms of leading someone through failure, is holding space for them, giving them what they need, asking them what they need, not assuming. That can be the most dangerous thing to do, right? Is assume that someone needs something. And, you know, I know that I can often fall into the trappings of wanting to fix things for people, because I don't like seeing other people in pain. I don't like seeing people find things challenging or difficult. But sometimes you've got to allow them to experience that in order for them to build that resilience. So it's not about kind of paying complete disregard and you know, letting them suffer. Of course not. But sometimes you have to sit with them and let them move through that emotion, allow them to do that, because otherwise it's just going to keep resurfacing. So help them to move through it, sit with them, be with them, and then once they're in that space of being better resourced, to then identify the blueprint out and what happens next and how we kind of then take it forwards. Then asking what they need from there, from a practical perspective. What can I do for you now? Like, how can I resource you?
We touched about, first of all, understanding the failure itself, whether it's failure that really happened or it's failure in the head. So I think maybe I would have verified with the client, first of all, evidence-based, what is the failure or what really happened, just to understand, be in the same line. And then I think where I would go with that is trying to show some, positive aspects of things that happened, whether it's related or unrelated. I just had a chat yesterday with someone that she told me that she made redundant in a job that, in a job title she liked. And as we carry on and discussing this, she said to me, "Oh, but the team was very toxic, and I didn't like the environment." And I said, "Okay, so to just put perspective on, is it really a failure that you lost that job?" So I think, again, really understanding the failure, where is that failure, and trying to put as much as possible a positive spin on it. And as Lisa said, plan the blueprint of moving forward.
Lisa or Isaac, do you think the more confident you are, the more resilient you are? What's the relationship between these two?
It's a good one. It's a good one to think, because the confidence in my mind, when you say the more confident you are, the more resilient you are, the answer is yes, of course. However, I'm questioning the confidence. I mean, is the confidence based on the right foundation? Or is it, sometimes we say, or play it or fake it, or what? If it's really a confidence that built inside you, then I think the resilience is what made you more confident. And that's basically how you are, that's the relationship of between those two. That's how I see it. Keen to hear, Lisa.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of a chicken and egg, isn't it? Because I think the more confident you are, the more you're going to be able to bounce back from failure and build that resilience. But also, as you become more resilient, it's going to have a knock-on impact on your confidence. It's going to help you feel more confident about your capabilities to bounce back from adversity and navigate that. So I think what fundamentally underpins all of it is self-belief, trusting yourself, of knowing yourself, of believing that you're capable of moving through anything, and also learning along the way and reaching your goals. So yeah, self-belief, and with that, having that compassion and that radical self-acceptance of meeting yourself exactly where you are in the moment.
What a brilliant place to wrap up. Thank you so much to both of you. It's been absolutely fascinating and so much really great advice, I think, as well, for those people listening. So huge thank you to both of you for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you for having us. And again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here on this show.
Yeah, I love the conversation. Thanks for inviting us here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
A huge thank you again to Isaac and Lisa for sharing their insights and expertise with us. I mean, really some fascinating insights there. What do you think you'll take away, Ellie?
I think the conversation about body and mind was very interesting for me. So how your body is connected to your mind. So I think the very simple senses we have to use our senses, like taking breath. It was one of my takeaway to actually how it helps for being more resilient, and how to basically behave correctly when you're under the pressure and you don't want to make any mistakes at work. All of the advices Lisa gave us. The other thing I also realized is like how important is your support network and the resources you have around yourself, and how much asking for help is actually going to help you to become more resilient. So these are my takeaways, actually.
Yeah, no, some really, really, really great stuff. All of the like breath work and how everything is linked up, I thought was just so interesting. And I mean, so much information there. So if one thing doesn't work for you, maybe some of the other tips will. So I mean, I think just, a huge amount of potential advice. So that's really, really, really great. Do share your thoughts and your stories with us. Let us know what you think. If there's anything you've found particularly useful from these discussions, we're on social media. Next time, we're looking at the power of mentorship and sponsorship for women in tech. So do send us any questions and we'll try and answer them, fit them into the conversation. Thank you for being with us. Keep the conversation going and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care, and thank you for being part of Unlock Her Tech. Bye.
Bye.